Today we're going to be talking about mites. It's probably one of the worst parts of reptile keeping, but luckily it is avoidable, it's not too common, and once the mites are gone, they are hopefully gone. It's very rare that they're going to come back unless you somehow accidentally reintroduce them to your animals, which is possible, especially if you go to an expo or something. But we can go ahead and get into it. I'll talk a little bit about mites, how I've had to deal with mites, and then exactly what I did to actually fix the issue. So in this enclosure is Sunny, my ball python. He's gonna be turning 4 soon. So he's getting pretty old. Well, not really, I guess he's still young, but that seems old to me, so I don't know. But when I got him at Repticon in Raleigh, North Carolina in December of 2013. He was my first ever reptile I was actually purchasing, but when I bought him, he actually had mites, so it was the fault of the pet shop that I got him from that actually attended that expo. So I will never be another customer of you, but I didn't actually know what mites were. So it took quite a bit of researching and stuff. Even if you just watch my old videos, I actually have a video of like the first day I got Sunny, and my setup was pretty weak. I didn't know what I was doing too well. But basically, once I realized that they were mites, I had to start trying a bunch of different processes to fix it, and it was really difficult. It actually took me months to fix because I really just wasn't going and putting enough effort in. I was definitely putting effort, but I could have done a lot more to really get it over with quickly. So that's what I'm going to be showing you today and what I finally did to get rid of them. So much of these little black specks, they show up on snakes, lizards, and other animals. I'm going to be using a snake, but it really shouldn't be too different with other reptiles that have mites. But we can go ahead and get started with the process. So I'm sure there's more than one way to do this, but what I'm doing today did work for me, so hopefully it should work for you too. So luckily, of course, my snake in here doesn't have mites, but I'm going to pretend that he does, pretend that they're in the enclosure, and so I'm just going to do the process. Also, really the main product you're going to have to buy for this is some sort of mite killing spray. I'm using Reptile spray, and it says kills mites on reptiles. It's made by Natural Chemistry. There's also one, I think it's called Preventamite. I think either will work. It shouldn't really matter too much, but this is what I used and it worked. Now I'm gonna go ahead and pull you up nice and close so you can see what's going on. So here we are. I find out that my snake has mites. He's currently under the hide, which means that they're probably all over the enclosure because they migrate a lot, or I guess I should say they might. Great. But the first thing I'm going to do is remove everything from this enclosure. You can say goodbye to the bedding, you're not going to be keeping it, but now we can take everything out. So as you can see, I'm getting there. I have all the substrate in this bag, and what I would do if I wasn't if my snake actually had mites, I would just tie this up and throw this bag away. Unfortunately, there's really not much you can do. You could always attempt cleaning it, like baking it or something, but I would not take the chance because those mites can easily come back if you miss just a few. So we've got a lot of the mites contained in this bag, but there are tons of places in this enclosure. For example, there's still some dirt on the bottom, which we'll have to remove, and there's so many little nooks and crevices in here. And we can't forget, there's going to be a top screen. This screen has little gaps. It has little spots all over here, gaps down in the bottom, lots of places for mites to hide. You need to think of every single little place these tiny little specked insects can fit. So now I'm going to spray everything with water to get out this last substrate. I'm going to be using paper towels. Unfortunately, that's a bit more wasteful than rags or something. But again, you don't want those mites to survive on those rags and continue to migrate. So the nice thing is doing this right here is taking care of a lot of the mites already. We're probably getting like 80% of them, I'd say. I don't know. However, those remaining mites, whatever 20% or whatever it might be, are still completely capable of taking the enclosure back over because they will mate and breed fast. Now, we're probably not actually killing the mites by doing this, so I'm not doing it right now, but try and keep everything contained, like each piece of paper towel, immediately get it into a garbage bin or a garbage bag so that you can get rid of it as soon as possible. Okay, this is looking pretty clean now. I'm sure there's still lots of little mites hanging out in all the little areas, but we have a lot taken out because the substrate and because we sprayed the enclosure and wiped it down, that pulled up a lot more. The next goal is to actually treat the enclosure and kill the remaining mites in this cage. So I would take my mite spray, whatever kind I'm using. I'm not actually going to use this spray. I'm going to pretend that this water is the spray. So if you're a bit confused, now this green container, we're gonna pretend is this spray. Keep in mind, you probably don't wanna like inhale this or anything because they are pretty strong. You might want to do this in a somewhat ventilated area. But now the goal is to just spray everything possible. This spray is going to kill those mites basically on contact. But you need to get every single corner you can, getting all up here, every little bit that might have a mite hiding in it. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I like to let it sit for a minute. So a few minutes later, you can go ahead and wipe all of this down. You might not even be able to wipe it down if you didn't spray very much. So after that, you would then spray with a water can or a water bottle to get all of that spray off of here. Again, that would pull a lot of the mites off as you wipe it down. Now I've got it all wiped out pretty well. So all of the spray should be pretty well removed. There might be some water remnants, but that's okay. Now what we're going to do is essentially prep this for your snake. So you probably had your hide, your water bowl, maybe some decor or whatever else in here. Remove all of that and get it away just into some separate place that can't get anywhere else. We're going to use completely different supplies in here to keep it super clean and super easy to clean after doing this. Now, my favorite thing to do with this is using paper towel as substrate because it's disposable and easy to see. I'm going to figure out how much paper towel I need and put it down just like this. Now let's talk about hides and water bowls. The best thing to do is use something very smooth and very easy to see those little black specks on, those being the mites. So you should probably use something that's either clear or white, and again, nice and smooth, so that's very easy to clean, and there's no crevices for those mites to hide in. This is just a plastic Tupperware. You can probably guess this is too small for the snake that I'm actually putting in this enclosure. But just as an example, what I did is cut a little hole in this. Now remember, plastic can be sharp, so you're either gonna wanna sand or melt this down. Keep in mind that it is flammable, and melting it down can be a bit dangerous, so be careful doing that. Avoid using tape on it. In the past, I think I mentioned using tape a couple times, but any adhesives can be dangerous to reptiles. So once I have this fresh little hide ready to use, I can just put it back in the enclosure wherever it was before. Pretend this is the water bowl, and the same thing goes for that too. You want it to be smooth, easy to see, and easy to clean. Now I'm not actually going to put a water bowl in yet because we're going to do a couple more things to this enclosure first where you should keep that out. Now keep in mind, I haven't done anything with this screen. You're still going to have to clean this. You're going to want to spray it completely down with the mite spray and then let it sit, and then rub as much off as you can, spray it down, get all those mites hiding in as many crevices as you can possibly reach. Now we've given everything a wipe down except for the snake itself, which we'll move on to once we're done with this. The next thing that I was doing, and it really did help, is take the mite spray and spray the enclosure again with everything except the water bowl in it. That means the top and this. Just a light spray over, including the paper towel and every little bit of glass that you can actually get to. This is going to help kill any extra mites that you either missed or that are going to come off of the snake, because any mites that just crawl or walk off the snake, when they touch this, they should die. Assuming we sprayed everything, we can just let this enclosure sit, and we can talk about the other things I had in it. So here is the previous hide. I wouldn't actually put it near this enclosure if there were mites, but just look at this mite haven. It's perfect for them. There's so many little crevices, so many little spots for them to hide under every tiny piece of bark. Even this side, there's probably little splinters. Well, hopefully there's no splinters on this. Okay, there's no splinters, but there are little holes around it that the mites can very easily hide in and just wait for a host, that being your snake when it's back in the enclosure, which is why you do not want to use these again. Same with the water bowl. It's rocky, it has little crevices that aren't so easy to clean. Because we won't be using that stuff, this will be your snake's boring little enclosure setup for a while. It is treated and ready to go, and now we can talk about the snake itself and treating the mites on that. Okay, now I've got Sunny with me, assuming he is mite infested. Now this spray that I use can actually be used directly on reptiles. I'm not sure if they all can, but this one can be. So what I did is avoiding the face because it is potentially harmful if it gets in their eyes or mouth or whatever. But from the neck down, do they have a neck? Where's the neck and where's the tail? But either way, regardless of whether they have a neck or not, at avoiding their head, you're gonna wanna spray the whole snake Try and get every single part you can and let it sit for a few minutes to kill all of the mites on it. After that, you can wipe it down. That's probably going to wipe even more mites off of the actual animal itself. Probably using a paper towel will be easiest. And then you want to actually rinse that off because you don't want it sitting on your snake, at least for this product that I'm using. So I could take a spray bottle. I think I actually just put the snake under the sink with not too cold of water, but some decently temperatured water, and get all of the spray off of the animal the best that you can so that it's not bothered by it. At this time, you've probably killed, I don't know, maybe 95% of the mites or so. So at this point, I'm going to put my snake back in here, and now I can add the water bowl. The reason we didn't add the water bowl before, because the mite spray is a chemical that can be harmful if it's ingested. Yep, it looks like this hide is just a little bit too small for him, but it'll work for this display. So at this point, you've treated your snake and the enclosure with mites the best that you can, but unfortunately it's not over yet. This took kind of a while. This has been like 20 something minutes worth of video so far, so it is a bit of a process. Luckily it's not too difficult, just a bit time consuming, and then you might have to buy some things and throw away some things you paid for, which kind of sucks, but at least your snake will be okay in the end. Now, we're not done yet. There's more things to talk about. The next being thinking about where these mites could have gotten. As we mentioned before, those mites can get around really quickly to find new areas. They probably won't stick around areas that they can't find a host in, but they still might be on other different supplies and stuff. For example, snake hook. There's a chance, or not a snake hook, snake tongs. There's a chance that some mites have gotten on this. I would give this a good scrub, maybe even spray it with the spray. Make sure you get all that spray off afterwards, and clean this the best you can. Maybe if you weigh your snake, you might have some on the scale or in the mechanisms here. You might want to just get these away for a while to make sure there are no mites on it. Even yourself, when my snake had mites, I was finding some on my arms. Luckily, they aren't actually going to mess with you or bite you. I would try and kill as many as you can find, but it's possible there's some in your shirt or pants or wherever, so it's not a bad idea to change your clothes along with cleaning all of the snake stuff. Okay, so this next part you might not like hearing, but this whole process we did, try and do it daily. Depending on the product, you might not want to use it on your snake daily because it is a chemical, so you might want to limit that. Just make sure you read the warnings and directions and everything. But the actual enclosure itself, if every day you can get all of this paper towel out, throw it away immediately, spray it on the enclosure with the snake out of it and the water bowl out of it, clean all of that, do the process again, rinse it all out, get every little nook and cranny, take out our little hide, scrub it the best you can. You can use a sponge, you can use soap and water, you can spray that afterwards, rinse it off, maybe spray it again afterwards when putting it back in. The water bowl, again, you should avoid spraying that, but you can take it out. Because of the smooth sides, you should be able to see the mites and scrub them off. You can use a sponge and soap and water. If you do use soap, make sure you rinse it really well to make sure there's nothing left. And then you can put the snake back in. I think I was spraying Sunny every 3 days or something, but because there will be spray in the actual enclosure, those mites should be killed when they walk off the snake. So that's pretty much the cycle that you can do. How long should you keep doing this? Well, it's hard to tell you exactly, but if you see just one mite, I would probably do it again. I would keep doing it until you see 0 mites. At that point, maybe you can consider putting back a nice actual real substrate. There is an issue I could understand with like burrowing snakes. Maybe you have a Kenyan sand boa or something, and honestly you might just have to sacrifice that snake being able to burrow for a little bit. That's not ideal, but I really can't think of what else you could do, because that would be a lot of substrate to throw away every day, and it's possible the whole bag of substrate's been infected. That is everything that I did to get rid of my snake's mites. Again, I'm sure there's more than one way to do this. There's multiple products. Again, this one's linked in the description if you want to buy it. But just look around, check out reviews, see what other people talk about in other videos, and make sure you leave your tips for people dealing with mites in the comment section below. But sorry you're having to deal with mites if that is a problem you're having. The best way to avoid mites in the future is actually looking for them on snakes before you buy them, and then even if you get a new snake or any reptile, quarantine it in another area so any mites, diseases, illnesses, or anything it may have will not spread to your other animals. In addition to this, I see a lot of people walk around with their personal reptiles at expos and pet stores, which I understand how that would be fun. I would like to do it, but bringing your animal to a place like that does potentially risk it picking up mites somehow, so I wouldn't do it. But that should be it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully I covered everything. But that should be it. So I'm Alex, and thanks for watching.